The bathroom light flickered once, catching the trail of steam that rose from the cracked porcelain tub. Water thudded against the tile in rhythmic splashes as Lyra pressed her palms to her face, breathing through the sting of tears. Her long night had ended in humiliation. The Alpha's council had laughed at her, the orphan Omega who dared speak up about the border attacks. The echo of their mockery still rang in her ears, louder than the shower's hiss. She thought she had locked the door. She thought, finally, she could let herself fall apart where no one would see. The air smelled faintly of lavender soap and iron, until a second scent sliced through it. Wild, smoky, dominant. The scent of power. Her breath hitched. Wolves recognized the presence of another before their eyes did. Someone was here. Someone inside. The mirror fogged over, but a shadow moved behind it, a tall outline. Broad shoulders still as stone. For a heartbeat she froze, thinking it was imagination, her mind playing tricks after a day of shame. But the soft creak of the floorboard proved otherwise. "Who's there?" she whispered, voice trembling, throat tight with fear and something she couldn't name. No answer, only the low rumble of breathing, steady, deliberate, controlled. Her heart pounded in her ribs. She grabbed the towel from the rack, clutching it to her chest, as if cotton could shield her from danger. The steam swirled around, thick and blinding. Then through the haze, she saw him, eyes glowing like molten gold, watching her from the doorway. He stepped forward, slow and measured, droplets of rain glistening on his dark hair. His presence filled the narrow room until there was no air left. "You shouldn't be here," she managed, though her words broke like glass. He didn't stop. He didn't blink. His gaze dropped to her trembling hands, then rose back to her face, unreadable. "Do you know who I am?" he asked, his voice deep enough to vibrate through the steam itself. She shook her head, unable to form words. "I am Kale," he said, "Alpha King of the Northern Bloodline." Her knees nearly buckled. What was the Alpha King doing in her bathroom? Why? She stammered, but the rest drowned in the sound of his footsteps echoing against the wet floor. Kale's expression was half fury, half restraint. "Someone dared attack one of mine tonight," he said. "I followed their scent here and found you." Lyra blinked, heart still hammering. "I don't know what you're talking about," she whispered. But he inhaled, long and slow, like a predator tasting the air. His jaw tightened. "Lies. I can smell your fear and something else." His gaze softened for a flicker of a second, confusion flashing behind a dominance. She felt the pull too, a strange magnetic current between them that defied reason. The air grew heavier, steam curled around them like smoke from a sacred fire. "You shouldn't exist," he murmured, almost to himself, and yet his hand lifted halfway, as if drawn by instinct, then stopped midair. Lyra backed against the sink, breath shaking, every nerve alive. "Please," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "leave." Kale looked at her like he was trying to decide between command and mercy. "If I leave," he said quietly, "every wolf within 50 miles will scent what I just did. They'll come for you. Do you understand what you've done?" The words hit like thunder, though she had no idea what he meant. She'd done nothing, only tried to survive another cruel day. "What do you mean?" she asked, trembling. He turned his head slightly, eyes darkening to near black. "You've marked me," he said, "and that makes you mine." The last light flickered out, plunging the room into darkness, except for his eyes, still burning gold. The night after Kale appeared felt like a fever dream. Lyra sat in silence beside the cracked window of her tiny room, staring at the forest that stretched beyond the village. The bathroom scene replayed in her head again and again. His eyes, his scent, the impossible words. "You've marked me." She didn't know what that meant, but she could feel something burning beneath her skin, like a pulse that didn't belong to her. Her towel had fallen away hours ago, and yet she still felt his warmth lingering on her neck, as if his presence refused to leave. The moon hung low and red, bleeding light into her room. She didn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Kale's face, conflicted, furious, yet haunted. She wanted to hate him. She wanted to forget. But her wolf stirred restlessly, whispering mine in the back of her mind. By morning, the forest was alive with rumors. The Alpha King had come down from the northern range for the first time in a decade. Some said he was hunting a traitor. Others whispered that he was searching for his mate. Lyra kept her hood up as she walked through the muddy path toward the orphanage where she worked. The other Omegas avoided her as usual, some out of pity, others out of scorn. To them, she was cursed. She'd never shifted fully, never found her pack, never felt the moon's full blessing. But there was one thing they didn't know. Lyra had been born under the blood eclipse, a once-in-a-century moon said to bless only one wolf with the scent of truth, the power to expose lies. That scent made her dangerous. That scent could ruin kings. And it was the same scent Kale had followed through the storm that night. As she scrubbed the floors of the sleeping hall, her mind wandered to the moment their eyes met. The weight of his stare had felt like recognition, like something ancient had woken. She didn't understand it, but her body did. Her heart raced at the memory, and that frightened her most of all. She thought she had escaped the path her bloodline carried, the cursed gift of her mother who had vanished before Lyra's first shift. But now, the Alpha King had found her, and destiny never visited twice. That evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, she felt it again, that wild, smoky scent on the wind. She turned, heart in her throat, and there he was, standing by the gate like a storm waiting to break. Kel's eyes were softer now, but no less commanding. "You shouldn't be here," she said again, voice trembling between anger and confusion. "And yet, here I am," he replied, stepping closer. "Your scent hasn't left me. Do you know what that means?" She shook her head, clutching her apron. "It means I can't rest until I understand why." His tone was low, almost pained. "When your scent touched me, every law of the bond broke. My wolf obeys you." Lyra's breath caught. The Alpha King's wolf obeyed her? That was impossible. "You're mistaken. You need to leave before someone sees." But his hand caught her wrist. Not hard, but firm enough to make her still. His eyes glowed faintly gold again. "Tell me who your parents were. Tell me why your scent carries power that only royal blood should hold." She hesitated, torn between fear and the truth she'd buried all her life. "My mother," she whispered, "was Louna Seraphine of the Lost Moon Pack." Kel's grip loosened, his expression shifting from suspicion to shock. The name hit him like lightning. The Lost Moon Pack had been destroyed 18 years ago by his own father's war. For the first time, the Alpha King looked afraid. The name Louna Seraphine hung in the air like a ghost neither of them wanted to face. Carol's breath hitched as his fingers slowly loosened from Lyra's wrist. The forest wind whistled through the orphanage gate, carrying the distant howl of a wolf. "Seraphine," he said quietly, almost to himself. She was supposed to be dead. Lyra looked away, her chest tight. "She was," she said softly. "They burnt her alive." Carol's jaw clenched. He remembered the story his father had told him as a boy, that the Lost Moon Pack had betrayed the northern bloodline, and their Luna was executed for treason. But standing before Lyra now, with her trembling breath and that unmistakable scent of the blood moon, doubt clawed at him. "Who told you that?" he demanded. "I was there," she whispered, her voice cracked. "I saw her die." The words hit him harder than any blade. The memories came unbidden. Carol as a child standing behind his father during the purge, the firelight painting the sky red, the screams echoing through the forest. He had never seen the woman's face, only her silhouette against the flames, defiant even as the world collapsed around her. "She didn't beg," he murmured. "She looked right at us." Lyra's eyes widened. "You were there?" He swallowed hard, guilt twisting through him. "I was a child. I didn't understand. My father said she'd betrayed the crown." "She didn't." Lyra's voice broke, the sound raw and trembling. "She tried to protect your people. She warned them about the curse, the one your family refused to believe existed." Carol stepped back, his composure cracking for the first time. "What curse?" he demanded. Lyra lifted her chin, eyes glistening with tears. "The curse that begins when the Alpha King kills a true Louna. The curse that binds his heir to her bloodline." The world seemed to still. Carol's pulse roared in his ears. "You're saying—" "You're cursed, Carol, and I'm the curse's answer." For a long, unbearable silence, neither of them moved. Carol's hands trembled at his sides, his wolf clung beneath his skin. Every part of him wanted to deny it, but his instincts screamed truth. He could feel her heartbeat through the air, matching his own. "If this is true, then your blood and mine were bound before we were born." The wind picked up, swirling leaves between them like silver sparks. "We can stop it, if you let me help you." But before he could respond, a sharp growl echoed from the forest. 3 dark figures emerged from the trees, wolves cloaked in black eyes glowing red with corrupted fury. Carol's instincts kicked in instantly. He shoved Lyra behind him, his posture snapping into alpha stance. "Stay back," he commanded, voice a dangerous growl. But the lead wolf laughed, a deep, inhuman sound that made Lyra's skin crawl. "So it's true. The Alpha King has found the blood-born Louna." Carol's gaze hardened. "Who sent you?" The wolf smiled, revealing jagged teeth. "Your brother sends his regards." Before Carol could react, the attackers lunged, their claws flashing under the moonlight. Lyra screamed as Carol shifted mid-leap, bones cracking, fur bursting from skin, and his golden eyes blazing brighter than fire. The sound of snapping bones and snarling echoed through the clearing, like thunder under the blood-red moon. Carol's wolf was enormous, black as midnight, muscles rippling with every movement, golden eyes burning with primal rage. Lyra stood frozen near the gate, her heart slamming against her ribs. She had never seen anything like it. The 3 rogue wolves circled Kael, their movements sharp, calculating, unnatural. Their fur shimmered faintly under the moonlight, enchanted, cursed. They weren't ordinary wolves. They were bloodbinders, assassins, bound by dark oaths that even an alpha's power could barely touch. Kael lunged at the first one, jaws locking around its throat, snapping it clean before spinning to deflect another strike. The air was thick with the scent of iron and smoke. Lyra stumbled backward as one rogue broke off and charged at her, its red eyes locked on her like prey. She raised her hands instinctively, but before she could scream, something deep inside her ignited. The world slowed. Her vision burned white hot. She felt her pulse expand outward, like the moon itself beating inside her chest. The charging wolf froze mid-stride, whimpering as invisible energy rippled through the air. The grass around Lyra shimmered silver. The blood dripping from Kael's claws hissed as it touched the ground. Then, with a single burst of light, the creature before her disintegrated into ash. Lyra gasped, collapsing to her knees, trembling. Kael turned, his wolf form still panting, eyes wide with disbelief. Slowly, he shifted back, skin replacing fur, breath heavy, chest scarred and bleeding. "What did you just do?" he demanded, voice raw with awe and fear. I don't know," Lyra stammered. Her hands glowed faintly with a fading silver hue. Kale took a step closer, lowering his voice. "No Omega should have power like that." He looked down at her trembling fingers. "Unless—" He didn't finish. The third bloodbinder rolls behind him silently, its eyes burning crimson. Lyra screamed, but Kale turned too late. The beast's claws tore across his back, dragging him to the ground. "Kale!" she cried, rushing to him. The bloodbinder loomed over the fallen Alpha King, saliva dripping from its jaws. Lyra didn't think, she simply acted. She threw herself between them, pressing her glowing hands against Kale's wounds. "No," he growled, trying to push her away. "You'll get yourself killed." But her light only grew brighter, spilling across his skin. The wound hissed and sealed as if time reversed itself. The bloodbinder roared and lunged, only to be struck mid-air by a surge of moonlight that exploded from Lyra's body, sending the creature flying into the trees. Silence fell. Smoke curled in the night air. Kale stared up at her, his expression unreadable, a mix of awe and fear. When the last echo faded, Kale rose slowly, wiping blood from his face. His voice was hoarse, trembling with the weight of what he'd seen. That wasn't healing. That was moonfire, the power of a true Luna. Lyra shook her head, tears welling. "That's impossible. My mother, she never taught me." "You don't need to be taught," he interrupted. "It's in your blood." He stepped closer, his tone softer now. "Your power answered mine. You saved me." Their eyes locked in the red glow of the moon. For a moment, the world shrank to just them, the Alpha King and the outcast Omega, bound by a force older than either of their kingdoms. But then, the silence broke. From the forest's edge, a deep, mocking laugh echoed. "So it's true," a voice drawled. "The blood-born Luna lives." Kale's blood ran cold. He knew that voice. It was low, magnetic, and venomous. The voice of his brother, Prince Darius, heir of the Southern Dominion, the man who had sworn to destroy him. Lyra turned, her breath catching as a figure stepped from the shadows. Darius's silver armor gleamed under the crimson light, his eyes glowing faintly red like the assassins he commanded. "You always did break the laws of nature, brother," Darius said with a smirk. "But this is treason to the blood itself." Chaos stepped in front of Lyra, his tone sharp as steel. "You sent those rogues. Why?" Darius tilted his head, smiling coldly. "Because I can't let the curse end, not when it gives me everything I want." Kael's claws slid out, his voice a growl. "And what's that?" Darius's grin widened. "Your throne and your Luna." The forest trembled under the weight of silence as the two brothers faced each other, moonlight cutting between them like a blade. Darius's armor shimmered faintly red, runes pulsing across the metal like living veins. His smirk never faded. "You look surprised, brother," he said, voice silky, dangerous. "Did you really think the curse would choose you?" Kael stepped forward, the muscles in his jaw tightening. "You always wanted what wasn't yours." Darius laughed softly, tilting his head. "And you always took what you didn't deserve." His gaze slid past Kael to Lyra, who stood frozen, clutching her hands to her chest. "Oh," Darius murmured, his tone dripping with false admiration. "The blood-born Luna. Mother would be proud if she hadn't been devoured by your father's ambition." Kael's growl shook the air. "Leave her out of this." Darius smirked. "How can I? She's the reason this curse exists." Lyra's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" she asked. Darius turned toward her, eyes gleaming. "Tell me, little Luna, did Kael ever tell you what his father did to your mother?" Her throat tightened. He killed her. Oh no, he didn't just kill her. He bound her spirit to the blood moon itself. Her power became the curse that now chains KL's bloodline. Lyra's knees went weak. You're lying. Darius smiled. Am I? He took a slow step closer, his voice lowering to a whisper. Your mother's death was not justice. It was sacrifice. And now the blood demands balance. KO's voice roared through the forest. Enough! He lunged forward, claws flashing. But Darius moved faster, catching KL's strike mid-air. The clash of power split the ground beneath them, sending shockwaves rippling through the clearing. Trees cracked, dirt rose in clouds, the moon itself seemed to shudder. Lyra stumbled backward, clutching her chest as her heart burned, two alpha energies colliding, both connected to her through the same curse. KL and Darius moved like shadows, blurring through the air, each blow sparking bursts of crimson light. You were never meant to rule, Darius snarled, fangs bared. You were the mistake. KL's golden eyes flashed brighter. Then why are you afraid of me? Their voices were thunder, their claws lightning. The ground trembled as KL slammed Darius against the tree, his hand around his brother's throat. You'll never touch her. But Darius only smiled, blood trickling from his lips. I can't stop me because she's the key, and the curse won't end until she chooses one of us. KL froze. What did you say? She's bound to both our bloodlines, hissed Darius. Only one alpha can claim her. The other will die. For a heartbeat, the world stopped. Lyra's breath came shallow and fast. She could feel it too, the pull of both brothers, the twin energies warring inside her chest. Her mother's curse was alive, and it was using her as the final test. KL turned toward her, eyes wild. Don't listen to him! But Darius's voice slithered between them. You can feel it, can't you, Luna? The bond pulling both ways. You don't know whether to run to him or me. His smirk deepened. That's the curse's design. Love, divided by blood. Desire, sharpened into death. Lyra's tears burned her cheeks. No, she whispered. There has to be another way. KL stepped forward, shaking his head. You are not a weapon, Lyra. You are not a curse. Darius's eyes gleamed with something darker. Envy, maybe pain. Tell yourself that when she's the one who killed you. He moved in a flash, summoning a dagger carved from moonstone, the same dagger that had ended Luna Seraphine's life 18 years ago. Let's finish what father started. Darius lunged. KL blocked, steel clashing against claws, but the enchanted blade sliced deep into KL's shoulder. He staggered, roaring in pain. KL! Lyra screamed, rushing toward him. Darius grinned, eyes blazing red. One wound, that's all it takes, for the curse to begin consuming him. Lyra fell to her knees beside KL as dark veins began to crawl up his skin, spreading from the wound like shadowed fire. Don't touch him, Darius warned. His blood will burn you. But Lyra didn't care. She pressed her glowing hands over the wound, sobbing, I can't lose him. The silver light flared again, brighter than before, her body trembling under its power. KL gasped, clutching her arm. Stop! You'll die! Then we died together, she said through tears. The forest exploded in white light. When the glow faded, both of them were gone. Only Darius remained, standing alone under the blood-red moon, staring into the emptiness where his brother and the blood-born Luna had vanished.
Silence. That was the first thing Lyra noticed. No wind, no heartbeat, no sound of life. Just silence, thick enough to feel. When she opened her eyes, she wasn't in the forest anymore. She stood barefoot on an endless plain of silver mist that shimmered like moonlight on water. The sky above was neither day nor night, just a soft gradient between shadow and light. Kazil lay a few feet away, motionless, his black coat torn and bloodless. Lyra's heart lurched. She stumbled to him, her trembling hands cupping his face. "Kazil, please," she whispered. His skin was cold, but not lifeless. She pressed her forehead to his, willing him to wake. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, his eyes opened, glowing faint gold. He inhaled sharply, as though pulled back from the edge of nothingness. "Where are we?" he rasped. Lyra glanced around, her voice small. "I don't know, but it doesn't feel real." The mist shifted around them, curling like breath. "It isn't," a woman's voice said behind them. Lyra turned and froze. A tall figure approached, cloaked in white silk that floated like smoke. Her silver hair cascaded down her back, her eyes luminous and sad. Lyra knew that face, even though she had only seen it in dreams. "Mother?" she whispered. The woman smiled faintly. "My brave little moon." Kazil stood slowly, disbelief flickering across his features. "Louna Seraphin." She inclined her head toward him. "Alpha King." Her voice was gentle, but it carried the weight of centuries. Lyra's chest ached as she reached out. "You're alive?" Seraphin shook her head. "Not in the way you understand life." She stepped closer, touching Lyra's cheek. "You are standing in the space between, where souls come when the blood of the moon is called." Kazil frowned. "Then why are we here?" Seraphin's gaze turned to him, piercing and calm. "Because the curse has reached its choice. It cannot bind what is already united, but neither can it free what resists its will." Lyra blinked, confused. "I don't understand." Seraphin smiled sadly. "You will." The mist rippled, forming shapes, ghostly visions swirling around them. Wolves running beneath blood-red skies, a woman in chains beneath a burning moon, a man with Kazil's eyes crowned in fire. "The first Alpha King," Seraphin said quietly. "He killed the one chosen for him and cursed his line forever, to crave the Luna's power but never truly possess it. That curse passed through every generation until it found its end in you two." Kazil clenched his fists. "So this was all fate?" "Not fate," corrected Seraphin. "Choice. The curse doesn't want your death. It wants your surrender. One of you must give up your power, your throne, your pride, for the other to live." Lyra's breath caught. She said, "That's not a choice. That's punishment." Seraphin looked at her daughter with sorrow. "Love always demands a price, my moonlight. The question is, what are you willing to lose to break what was never meant to exist?" Kazil stepped forward, his voice rough. "I'll give it up," he said without hesitation. Lyra turned, eyes wide. "No!" "It's my bloodline that caused this, my father's sins, my family's wars. You shouldn't pay for them." "And you shouldn't die for them," she countered, tears streaming down her face. "We can find another way." But Seraphin shook her head. "The curse is bound to the blood. Only sacrifice can free it." Kazil reached for Lyra's hands, his touch warm despite the void around them. "You said you once felt like you didn't belong. Maybe this is why. Maybe the moon made you to end what I began." Lyra shook her head violently. "No! I was made to love, not destroy." Her mother smiled faintly. "Then love, my child. Love fully. Love until the curse has nothing left to feed on." Her image began to fade, her voice softening to an echo. "And remember, the heart that chooses will decide which world remains." The mist darkened. The ground began to shake. Kazil pulled Lyra against him as cracks of light split through the fog. "What's happening?" she cried. "We're being pulled back," he said, his voice tight. "The curse is choosing." Seraphin's fading voice whispered one last time, barely audible over the roar of the void. "One life to restore the moon, one death to free it." The mist imploded in a flash of light, swallowing them whole. When Lyra opened her eyes again, she was lying in the ruins of the orphanage, alone, and Kazil was gone. Ash fell like snow. The orphanage was nothing but bones and dust, the scent of burnt wood sharp in Lyra's lungs. She pushed herself upright, dazed, her ears ringing. The moon hung low and fractured, its reflection trembling in the broken glass around her. Kale? Her voice cracked. Only the wind answered, brushing cold fingers against her damp skin. The mark on her wrist, the Alpha's mark, glowed faintly, flickering like a dying flame. He was alive. Somewhere, somehow, she could feel it. She rose to her feet, the world swaying around her. The forest beyond the ruins looked darker, heavier, as if mourning with her. When she took her first step forward, her knees buckled, and she fell to her hands, tears carving paths through the soot on her cheeks. "You promised me forever," she whispered. "You don't get to vanish." But even as grief swallowed her, something inside burned hotter. Rage, love, purpose. She wiped her face, set her jaw, and began walking toward the kingdom that once belonged to her Alpha King. The gates of the Shadow Kingdom stood half open, their iron vines twisted and torn. The guards who once bowed before Kale were gone, or worse. The courtyard was littered with broken armor and scorched banners. The throne room was worse. The great marble floor, once polished like moonstone, was cracked. The throne itself, empty. Lyra stood before it, trembling. "He's gone," someone said behind her. She turned. Darius. His dark hair was slicked back, his smile sharp and cold. "And so was your claim, little Luna." Lyra's pulse spiked. "You did this." "No," Darius said, stepping closer, his boots echoing through the ruined hall. "He did this to himself, chasing destiny, falling for weakness." He tilted his head, eyes glinting. "But don't worry. I'll take care of what's left. The pack needs strength now, not grief." Lyra clenched her fists. "You call betrayal strength?" Darius's grin widened. "I call survival strength. You of all people should understand that." Lyra's control snapped. She lunged at him, her nails glowing silver as they elongated into claws. Kale caught her wrist mid-swipe, his group bruising. "Still fighting," he murmured, almost amused. "You really think you can rule them alone?" She shoved him back with a burst of lunar energy that sent him crashing into a column. "I don't need to rule," she said through clenched teeth. "I just need to find him." Darius rose slowly, brushing dust from his shoulders. "Even if he's dead." Lyra's throat tightened, but she met his gaze. "Especially if he's dead." The air trembled between them, thick with unspoken history. For a moment, Darius almost looked human, almost regretful. Then he turned away. "The council meets at dawn. Decide whether you'll kneel or burn." He left without another word, his laughter echoing down the hall like the promise of war. That night, Lyra couldn't sleep. The castle felt hollow, haunted by memories of Kale, his voice, his scent, the way his shadow filled every room. She sat by the shattered window of the royal chamber, the moonlight painting her face in pale silver. "Where are you?" she whispered into the dark. The mark on her wrist pulsed again, faint but insistent. Suddenly, she heard a low growl not outside, but inside her mind. "Lyra." Her breath caught. "Kale?" His voice was faint, distant, like an echo carried by wind. "Don't trust them. The curse isn't done." She stood abruptly. "Where are you? Tell me." Static filled her head, then silence. But for the first time since waking, she smiled through her tears. He was alive, and he was reaching for her. As the moon sank toward the horizon, Lyra rose, determination hardening her features. She tore the royal insignia from her cloak and tossed it into the fire. If the throne wants a ruler, it can find one. I'm going after him. She strapped on Kale's dagger, its hilt still warm with his scent, and stepped into the night. Behind her, the castle burned, its flames rising like a beacon across the cursed land. Somewhere, beyond the mountains, the Alpha King was waiting, and the moon was far from done with them. The forest beyond the Shadow Kingdom was nothing like the one Lyra had known. Here, the air shimmered faintly blue, heavy with fog that smelled like rust and rain. Every sound seemed to echo too long. Footsteps, breathing, heartbeat. The Wraithlands were set to be where wolves went when they died dishonored, their spirits trapped between the moon and the soil. "You're not supposed to be here," a voice whispered through the mist. Lyra froze, dagger drawn. A figure emerged from the fog, a woman with silver eyes and white hair braided with bones. She wore no scent, no warmth. "Who are you?" Lyra demanded. The woman smiled faintly. "A guardian of those who are lost. And you, blood-born Louna, are very lost indeed." Lyra's pulse quickened. "I'm looking for someone, the Alpha King." The woman tilted her head. "Ah, the cursed air." She turned, gliding through the fog. "Then you must walk through the Valley of the Forgotten. But be warned, child. What you find may no longer be what you love." Hours passed, or maybe days. Time bent strangely here. Shadows whispered secrets, voices of wolves long dead begging her to turn back. But Lyra pressed on, guided by the faint glow of her mark. Her clothes clung to her with cold dew, and her breath came in misty clouds. She crossed rivers that flowed backward, forests where trees bled silver sap, and meadows where bones bloomed like flowers. Each step brought her closer to something ancient, powerful, and terrifying. At last, she reached a clearing bathed in blood-red moonlight. In its center stood a circle of black stones carved with runes. The ground pulsed beneath her feet like a living heartbeat. "Kyle?" she whispered. The air trembled, and a figure rose from the shadows. For one impossible moment, her chest filled with light. "Kyle!" she cried, rushing forward. But as the fog parted, her smile vanished. The creature before her was not her Alpha King. His body was Kyle's, yes, broad shoulders, familiar stance, but his eyes burned pitch black, his veins glowing crimson. Chains of molten silver snaked around his arms, carved deep into his flesh. His voice, when it came, was a growl layered with pain. "Stay back." Lyra froze, tears stinging her eyes. "What happened to you?" "The curse," he rasped. "It took me when I tried to save you." She stepped closer, trembling. "I can break it." "No," he snarled, the sound feral and sharp enough to shake the stones. "You can't. The moment you touch me, it will take you too." His body convulsed, light bursting beneath his skin like lightning. The runes glowed brighter, reacting to her presence. "Kyle, please," she begged, reaching out. "You promised we'd face this together." For a flicker of a moment, his eyes cleared, gold returning through the darkness. "Lyra," he whispered, voice breaking. "You shouldn't have come." The ground split open with a thunderous crack, wind howling through the clearing. From the fissure, shadows poured out, dozens of them, shifting like wolves without form. The guardian's voice echoed faintly through the storm. "He's bound to the curse. If you stay, you'll bind yourself too." Lyra's heart pounded. "Then so be it," she screamed. She leapt forward, pressing her hand to Kyle's chest. Pain seared through her arm, bright and blinding. For a heartbeat, they were one. Her blood, his curse, the moon above them all, merging in one pulse of burning light. Kyle roared, the sound shaking the valley. The chain shattered, scattering molten sparks into the night. When the light finally dimmed, both of them collapsed, gasping, trembling in the silence that followed. Lyra's vision blurred, but she could still see him, his body lying beside hers, his eyes open and golden once more. "You broke the curse," he whispered weakly. She smiled through tears. "No," she said, voice fading. "We broke it." But as darkness claimed her vision, she didn't see the last flicker of black returning to Kyle's gaze, or the shadow curling behind him, whispering softly.
The curse has only begun.
The dawn came too soon. The valley that had burned red under the blood moon now lay quiet, smoldering in pale light. Lyra stirred first, her body aching from the curse's blast. When she turned her head, she saw him, Kyle, still as stone beside her. Kyle? Her voice was hoarse, hopeful. His eyes fluttered open, gold catching the sunlight. Relief flooded her, hot and shaking. You're alive. He smiled faintly. So were you. For a moment, there was only the sound of their breathing, 2 heartbeats finding rhythm again. But then Kyle's smile faltered. His pupils dilated, a flicker of darkness moving beneath his skin. He gripped his temples, groaning. It's still inside me. Lyra crawled closer, placing a trembling hand on his arm. No, we broke it. I felt it shatter. He shook his head, pain twisting his face. You freed me from the chains, not the curse. His voice dropped to a growl. Now it's inside me. By the time night fell, Kyle could barely stand. His veins pulsed black, his breath uneven. The mark on his neck, the royal sigil of the Alpha King, had turned crimson. Lyra stayed by him, refusing to leave, her own energy nearly drained. You have to fight it, she said softly. You're stronger than this. He looked up at her, eyes dark with something both foreign and familiar. You don't understand, he whispered. The curse feeds on what I love most. Her stomach dropped. Kyle, it's you, Lyra. The words landed like a dagger. She stared, unable to breathe. That's why it's not dying, he said, his voice breaking. Every time I look at you, it grows stronger. Every time I think of you, it hungers. Tears welled in her eyes. Then look away, she begged. Hate me if you have to. Just don't let it win. He smiled bitterly. You think I can hate you? His body shook, bones cracking as the darkness pushed against his control. I'd rather die loving you than live without you. The moon rose full, washing the clearing in silver fire. Kyle's roar split the air, deep and feral. His shadow stretched unnaturally, moving before he did. Lyra backed away, horror filling her chest. Kyle, she cried. But his eyes were black now. No gold, no warmth. His wolf emerged in full force, fur streaked with dark veins that pulsed like molten blood. Run, he snarled, his voice layered with another, darker tone. I said, run. Lyra's legs refused to move. I'm not leaving you. He lunged, not at her, but past her, smashing into a tree, fighting himself, ripping claws through bark instead of flesh. Every motion was a war inside him. If you stay, he choked, I'll kill you. Lyra's tears streamed freely. Then kill me, she screamed back, because I won't survive if you're gone again. The forest held its breath. For a moment, his wolf hesitated, trembling. Then Kyle's human voice broke through, weak and shaking. Lyra, please. She stepped forward slowly, ignoring the danger, until she was close enough to touch him. Her fingers brushed his jaw, and for a second, just one, his eyes flashed gold again. You're still in there, she whispered. He shuddered, his claws retracting halfway. I can hold it back, he said through gritted teeth, but not for long. You have to leave. She shook her head, desperate. Not until I know you'll survive. He took her hand gently, pressing her palm against his heart. Then remember this, he said. No matter what I become, I'm yours. And before she could respond, he slammed his fist into the ground, unleashing a shock wave of black energy that hurled her backward. Her body hit the earth hard. When she opened her eyes, he was gone, swallowed by shadow, his roar fading into the distance like a dying star. Lyra crawled forward, clutching her chest, her mark burning with grief. The forest was silent again, eerily so. She looked at the crater where he had stood and saw something glinting in the dirt. His pendant.
the one shaped like a wolf's fang. She picked it up, whispering through trembling lips, "You can't outrun me, Kyle." The moon above bled red once more, its light trembling like it was alive. And somewhere far beyond the forest, the cursed Alpha King opened his eyes in a wasteland of shadow, no longer sure who or what he was.
The forest no longer recognized him. The trees bent away as Kyle passed, their leaves trembling under the weight of his shadow. The curse had devoured his memories first. Names, faces, even his own reflection. He no longer remembered his kingdom or his throne. Only flashes, golden eyes, the scent of rain, the feel of someone's hand against his heart. But the hunger remained. It pulsed in his veins, whispering commands. Feed, hunt, survive. His body obeyed, even as his soul screamed in silence. Each night he prowled deeper into the ruins of the old world, chasing the howls of other wolves. They called him many things: the nameless Alpha, the shadow of the blood moon, the beast who no longer answered to the moon's pull. But one name lingered in the fog of his mind, echoing like a song half remembered. Lyra. When he tried to say it, it tore from his throat as a growl. He didn't know if it was a memory or a curse. Lyra followed the trail for days. Every step was marked by ruin, the crushed bodies of fallen wolves, the smell of blood and lightning. Her heart broke with each sign of his presence, torn between fear and hope. The pendant he left behind hung around her neck, its fang pulsing faintly with heat whenever she was near. "Kyle," she whispered into the cold night air. "I'm coming." She moved through the forest like a ghost, silent but determined. Darius's men had followed her trail once, but she'd lost them in the mountains. The council wanted Kyle dead, claiming he'd become a monster. They said if the curse wasn't stopped, it would consume the entire bloodline. But Lyra didn't care. She'd seen the man beneath the beast. She'd felt his love, even through pain. "You saved me once. Now it's my turn." The moon rose high, casting pale fire across her path. Somewhere ahead, a howl ripped through the silence, low, broken, and familiar. She found him in the ruins of an ancient temple, crouched beneath the statue of the moon goddess. His body trembled with exhaustion, fur matted with dirt and blood. For a heartbeat, Lyra forgot to breathe. "Kyle," she whispered, stepping forward. His head snapped up, black eyes locking onto her. The growl that followed was deep enough to shake the ground. "No," she said firmly, voice trembling. "You know me." She reached out slowly. His breath came fast, sharp, torn between instincts. "Lyra," she whispered again, tears streaming down her face. "Please." For a moment, the air shimmered, his shadow flickering, his wolf form twisting in pain. Then through the darkness, a faint gold shimmer flickered in his eyes. "Lyra." The sound was barely human. "Yes," she cried, stepping closer. "It's me." But the curse fought back, roaring through his body. His claws dug into the earth, his jaw clenched. "Run. I can't stop it." She didn't move. "Then don't." Her voice shook but didn't waver. "You're not my enemy," she said softly. "You're my mate." She pressed her hand against his chest where his heart beat erratically. "And I'll never stop calling you home." For a heartbeat, the world held still. The curse's dark veins pulsed beneath his fur, black against silver. Then slowly, painfully, they began to fade, draining into the earth like spilled ink. Kyle stumbled back, collapsing with a groan. His body shifted, bones snapping, fur retracting, until the man she loved lay trembling before her, covered in sweat and scars. "Lyra," he breathed, voice hoarse. She dropped to her knees, pulling him into her arms. "I told you, I'll always find you." But as their hearts found rhythm again,
The statue above them cracked, moonlight pouring through its fractures. A whisper filled the temple, ancient and cold. Every curse has a price. Lyra stiffened. Kael looked up, eyes wide. The moonlight carved a mark on the floor, a circle with two interlocking wolves. In its center, a shadow began to form. The voice came again, deeper this time. If love has broken the curse, love must seal it. Kael's breath caught. No. Lyra turned to him. What does it mean? His eyes filled with dread. It means one of us has to die.
The temple was silent except for the echo of those dreadful words. One must die. Lyra's hands trembled as she looked up at the glowing sigil in the cracked stone floor. That can't be true, she whispered. There has to be another way. Kael stood still, his face pale beneath the flickering moonlight. The black veins that had once marked his curse were gone, but his eyes were hollow. He already knew. The goddess doesn't lie, he said softly. She gave me this bloodline. She gave me the throne, and she's always demanded balance. Lyra shook her head violently. No, we've already lost too much. He reached for her hand, and when their fingers touched, light flared between them, pure, golden, and alive. You gave me back my soul, he murmured. You broke what no one else could. That's why the curse wants you now. Lyra pulled back, anger flashing through her tears. Then let it take me. If my life ends this, I'll do it. Kael's expression hardened. I won't let you. The wind roared through the temple, carrying whispers that didn't belong to either of them. The statue's eyes began to glow, and the goddess's voice filled the air again, neither cruel nor kind, just ancient. The curse was born of love corrupted by blood. Only love willing to surrender itself completely can restore the balance. Lyra clenched her fists. Then let me surrender. The air shimmered, forming the faint silhouette of the moon goddess. Silver skin, eyes like galaxies, hair flowing like starlight. Would you trade your heartbeat for his? The goddess asked. Without question, Lyra said. Kael stepped in front of her, fury burning in his eyes. No, he growled. You take me. The curse is mine, not hers. The goddess looked between them, her expression unreadable. So it shall be tested. The temple floor split open into twin paths of light, one leading into gold, one into shadow. Only the soul that walks true will return, the other will fade. Kael turned to Lyra, his voice shaking. We both walk together. She nodded, though her heart pounded so hard it hurt. They stepped on their separate paths, the air thick with power. At first, the light around them pulsed in harmony, their steps matching. But as they walked, illusions began to appear, fragments of memory twisted by pain. Lyra saw Kael crowned in blood, turning his blade on her. Kael saw Lyra walking hand in hand with Darius beneath the red moon. It's not real, she cried, pressing forward, but the path fought her with every step, whispering lies meant to wound her. Kael stumbled, clutching his chest, as dark hands rose from the shadows, dragging at him. Lyra, he shouted, don't stop. She reached out across the divide, her fingers brushing his for a single heartbeat before the light flared between them. The temple filled with the sound of her scream and his roar, two voices echoing as one. When the light finally dimmed, Lyra lay on the temple floor, gasping for air. The shadows were gone. The sigil on the floor glowed faintly gold. Kael, she whispered. Silence. Panic flared through her. Kael! She pushed herself upright, searching the rubble. The statue of the goddess had shattered, its face serene even in ruin. Then, from the far side of the temple, she heard a weak cough. She ran toward the sound. And there he was, Kael, half conscious, bleeding from the chest, but alive. She fell to her knees beside him, cradling his face in her hands. You made it, she sobbed. He smiled faintly.
You did it. But as she looked down, her stomach twisted. His blood shimmered gold. No, she breathed, realization dawning. You gave her your life. He reached up, brushing a tear from her cheek. Every king must give something back. I give her Mui. Lyra shook her head violently, tears spilling onto his skin. No, you can't leave me. Tael's eyes softened, his voice barely a breath. I'm not leaving. I'm just becoming part of the moon. His fingers traced the mark on her wrist, now glowing brighter than ever. Every night you look up, you'll see me there, and I'll be watching you. Kael, please, she begged. But he only smiled. You were my salvation, Lyra, my light. The last word left his lips like a sigh. The temple grew still, the moon's glow dimming as his hand fell away. Lyra's sobs filled the emptiness, echoing through the ruins. Outside, the clouds shifted, and the moon turned gold, its light pure and unbroken. The curse was gone. The Alpha King was gone. And Lyra was left holding his body beneath the goddess's silent gaze.
The moon hung lower than ever that night, its golden hue washing over the ruins of the temple where Lyra knelt beside Kael's still body. The air smelled of rain and sorrow. His blood, no longer cursed black but shimmering gold, had soaked into the ancient stones, sealing the goddess's promise. The curse was gone, but so was the man who had carried it. Lyra pressed her forehead to his chest, whispering his name over and over as though the sound alone could bring him back. Kael. Only silence answered her, soft and endless. When dawn came, she rose on unsteady feet. The pack would be waiting. The throne would be empty. And though her heart was breaking, she knew what she had to do. By the time she returned to the castle, the halls were filled with whispers. Soldiers bowed, Omegas stared, and elders murmured prayers. They could all see the light that followed her. Subtle, radiant, unearthly. It clung to her skin like moonfire. As she walked past, even the wolves lowered their heads. The Louna returns, someone whispered. But where is the king? Lyra didn't answer. She climbed the marble steps to the throne room and stopped before Kael's empty seat. His crown rested there, gleaming faintly. For a long time she stared at it, remembering his voice, his strength, his impossible tenderness. Then, without a word, she lifted it and placed it upon her own head. Gasps filled the chamber. Her voice was steady as she said, Your Alpha is gone, but the moon still rises, and I will not let his sacrifice be in vain. That night the council summoned her. Elder Soren, the oldest among them, spoke first. You cannot rule without a mate, he said, his tone cold. The laws, Lyra interrupted, were written by those who feared women strong enough to lead. The room fell silent. Her golden mark glowed against her wrist as she continued. Kael's power lives in me, his blood, his spirit, his blessing. I am the Louna he chose. The goddess has already crowned me. Soren's eyes narrowed. The pack will rebel. Lyra met his gaze without flinching. Then they will kneel or fall. Power rolled through her words, gentle yet absolute. The moonlight streaming through the window bent toward her, wrapping her in a soft halo. Even the counselors felt it. She wasn't just the Louna anymore. She was something else, something divine. In the days that followed, Lyra rebuilt what the curse had broken. She freed the Omegas Kael's father had enslaved. She burned the dungeons and opened the archives that had been sealed for centuries. Under her rule, no wolf went hungry, and no blood was shed without justice. But when the nights grew quiet and the palace slept, she would stand on the balcony and look up at the moon. Every time, she swore she could hear his voice in the wind. My light. And sometimes, when the clouds parted just right, she saw a shadow in the moon glow, shaped like a man with eyes full of love. It hurt, but it also healed. Kael was gone,
but not lost. He had become what the legends never said love could be: eternal. Weeks later, a storm gathered over the northern woods. The guards found Lyra at the edge of the forest, her cloak soaked, her eyes wild with purpose. "My queen," they pleaded, "the northern packs refused your banner. They claim the bloodline ends with the Alpha King." Lyra turned toward the thunder, her golden eyes flashing. "Then I will remind them," she said quietly, "that the moon has no king, only a queen who remembers." She raised her hand, and lightning tore the sky open. Her mark glowed brighter than ever, its lights rippling across the land. From that night forward, wolves whispered of a ruler not bound by flesh or fate. They called her the Queen of Shadows, the woman who carried the light of the dead and ruled with both love and fury. And somewhere above, the moon glowed gold once more, watching, blessing, remembering.
The forest was quiet that night, too quiet for comfort. The usual hum of life, wolves howling, leaves rustling, was gone, swallowed by something colder, older. Lyra felt it first, a pulse under her skin, steady and deep, like a second heartbeat. It came when she stood beneath the silver branches of the moon tree, where she and Cahill had once promised to face death together. The air shimmered faintly, bending around her form. "You're not supposed to be here," she whispered to the wind. But then she heard it, a voice she could never mistake. "And yet you called me." The sound wasn't from outside, it was inside her, deep and resonant, as if her soul remembered what her heart had buried. "Cahill?" she breathed. The forest trembled. The moonlight thickened, coiling into the shape of a man. He appeared like mist forming into muscle, familiar, impossibly real. His golden eyes burned softly, his chest bare, marked by the same crescent scar that had once branded him cursed. "You shouldn't be here," Lyra said again, trembling. "You're dead?" Cahill stepped closer, each movement slow, deliberate, reverent. "Maybe, but death is nothing to a bond like ours." She wanted to run, to fall into him, to scream. Instead, she whispered, "Why now?" Cahill reached out, his fingers brushing the air just short of her skin. "You're losing yourself to grief," he said. "You're becoming what I fought to protect you from. Empty." Her throat closed. "I had to be strong," she said. "The pack needs me." "And who saves you?" he asked softly. The question shattered her composure. She fell forward, her forehead against his chest. And to her shock, he was solid, warm, real. The bond flared like fire meeting air. Lyra's power surged through her veins, golden light spilling from her eyes. Cahill's spirit wasn't just visiting, it was merging. "You're not supposed to stay," she said, panic in her voice. "If you do, you'll fade." Cahill smiled faintly. "Then let me fade, loving you." But the goddess had other plans. The ground shook. Moonlight split the sky. A beam struck the tree, then them. Lyra cried out as the mark on her wrist blazed bright gold. Cahill's form glowed, his outline blurring. "No!" she screamed, clinging to him. But instead of vanishing, his spirit sank deeper, into her. The forest exploded in white light. When it cleared, Lyra stood alone, her breath uneven. Yet her reflection in the nearby pool showed two sets of eyes, hers and his. When she returned to the castle, her steps were unsteady. Every mirror she passed flickered with Cahill's reflection beside her. His voice lingered in her thoughts, gentle but fierce. "You're not alone anymore." That night, during council, Lyra felt his presence guiding her words. She spoke with new fire, new wisdom. Even the doubters fell silent. "The queen has found her strength," one elder murmured. But it wasn't just strength.
It was unity. Kahel's soul now lived within her, their hearts fused beyond the laws of life and death. Still, the power was unstable. The bond that bound them also drew something darker, an ancient hunger once buried by the curse. And far to the north, the sky turned red again. The darkness that had cursed Kahel had not died. It had only changed its shape. That night, as Lyra stood at her balcony, the moon shone brighter than ever. "Kahel," she whispered, "if you can hear me." "Always," came his answer, echoing through the wind and her heartbeat alike. But even as comfort filled her chest, a cold whisper followed. The curse was never broken, it was only transferred. Her fingers froze on the railing. The night felt colder, and for the first time in weeks, Lyra wondered if love could still save them both, or if it had doomed them forever.
The moon was bleeding. From the high towers of the Silver Keep, crimson light poured across the land, setting the forests aglow like veins of fire. Wolves howled in confusion, their instincts unraveling. Inside the throne room, Lyra stood before the mirror that had cracked the night Kael's spirit returned. Her reflection flickered, her face, then his, then both as one. "Kael," she whispered, gripping the edge of the marble basin, "what's happening to us?" His voice echoed softly inside her mind. "The bond is too strong. We've crossed what was never meant to be crossed." Lyra's heart clenched. "You mean I brought back the curse?" A pause, then his voice again, steady but mournful. "Not brought back, transformed. The goddess warned me once. Love that defies death must bear death's weight." The mirror pulsed with golden light before fracturing completely. She turned as the doors burst open. General Adric, Kael's most loyal warrior, stumbled in, his armor scorched. "My queen, the northern sky, monsters in the old ruins, wolves turning feral, devouring each other." His voice cracked. "The moon's red. It feels like madness." Lyra's veins burned with Kael's power. She could feel it, threads of wild energy reaching through her, trying to find balance. But it wasn't just her anymore. It was them. Kael's soul pulsed inside her chest, fighting the same chaos. If this curse spreads, it'll undo everything we've built. Kael's voice rose in her thoughts, urgent now. "You can't fight it alone, Lyra. Let me take it back. Let me die properly this time." Her throat tightened. "No," she said. "Not again." Her fingers brushed the crown on her head. It was warm, too warm. That crown had once belonged to Kael's father, forged in blood and blessed under a false moon. The moment Lyra placed it on her head, the curse had found a new vessel. She could feel it crawling through her veins now, whispering hunger. "The cursed crown," Kael said through her, the words almost reverent. "It chose you because you're the only one strong enough to contain it." Lyra clenched her jaw. "Then I'll control it. I'll make it serve, not destroy." Her reflection shimmered faintly in the broken glass, half human, half light. Kael's form stood behind her, visible now to her eyes alone. "You can't cage darkness, my love," he said softly. "You can only balance it." But Lyra wasn't listening anymore. She strode toward the balcony, raising her arms toward the red moon. The winds howled around her, swirling in spirals of gold and blood. "Goddess of the moon," she called, her voice booming through the valley. "You gave us this love, and you cursed us for keeping it. Take back what's yours, or teach me how to bear it." Lightning split the sky. The ground shook beneath her feet. From the forest rose spectral shapes, wolves of light and shadow, spirits of the past kings and queens. Kael's voice roared through her now, not gentle, but commanding. The curse must end tonight. The crown flared a bright gold, then black. Lyra screamed as pain tore through her body. Images flooded her mind. Kael dying, her crying over his body, the goddess watching from the clouds. She saw the truth.
Kyle had never been cursed. He had been chosen to hold the curse for her, and now that he was gone, it had returned to its rightful bearer. As her body trembled, Kyle appeared fully beside her, real, whole, radiant. "Let me go, Lyra," his hand on her cheek. "If I fade, the curse will fade with me." Tears streamed down her face. "You are the curse and the cure." His lips curved in a sad smile. "Then let's end it together." She nodded once. The moon blazed white, erasing red from the sky. Lyra lifted the crown high and shattered it against the balcony stone. The explosion was silent but blinding. Every wolf in the kingdom howled at once. When the light faded, the sky was silver again. Lyra fell to her knees, gasping. Kyle was gone. For real this time. But the world was clean. The curse broken, the bond quiet. For the first time in her life, she felt both completely alone and completely free. The dawn came slow that morning, as if the heavens themselves hesitated to let the night go. The silver keep lay in silence, its towers bathed in pale light. Every wound, every shadow from the battle had vanished, but so had he. Lyra stood barefoot in the great hall, the shattered remains of the cursed crown scattered before her, like shards of stars. Her reflection in the marble floor showed no golden glow, no spectral shadow beside her. For the first time since the day she met Kyle, she was truly alone. Her heart ached with the weight of what she'd done, of what she'd lost. Yet somewhere deep inside, beneath the sorrow, there was peace. He had found freedom, and now she would too. The council gathered by sunrise, every elder silent as Lyra entered. Her once silver cloak now trailed dark crimson from the blood of battle, yet her posture was tall, regal, unyielding. Elder Soren rose first. "The curse is gone," he said. "But so is the Alpha. What becomes of the throne?" Lyra looked at him, eyes clear, steady. "The throne was never his," she said softly. "It belongs to the pack. It belongs to all who bled for it." Murmurs rippled through the room. Adric stepped forward, head bowed. "Then who will lead us, my queen?" She smiled faintly, though her voice trembled. "You will lead yourselves. You will learn that power doesn't come from bloodlines or crowns. It comes from unity." And with that, she removed the pendant Kyle had once worn, the one etched with the mark of the Alpha, and laid it on the throne. That afternoon, Lyra walked to the cliffs overlooking the valley. The wind smelled of pine and salt, carrying whispers of the sea. She wore white, the color of peace among wolves. Behind her, hundreds gathered, wolves and humans alike. They came not for orders, but to say goodbye. She turned to them, her voice calm but resonant. "We've lived too long under curses," she said, "too long fearing the power that binds us to the moon. But tonight we rise not as alphas and omegas. We rise as one." The crowd bowed, a ripple of reverence moving like wind through grass. She raised her arms, and for the first time since the curse began, the moon rose pure and silver. Its light bathed every face, every scar, every tear. As it climbed higher, Lyra closed her eyes. The wind shifted, soft, familiar. And then she heard it. "My light." Her breath caught. She didn't open her eyes, afraid he'd vanish if she did. "Kyle?" she whispered. "Always." The voice was faint, woven into the night, but it carried the same warmth it always had. She smiled through her tears. "I hope you're proud of what we've done." "I'm proud of who you became." The words wrapped around her like a promise, gentle as the first dawn after storm. She looked up at the moon, where a faint golden shimmer flickered at its edge. Not a curse this time, but a blessing, a reminder. When the people left, Lyra stayed by the cliffs until the horizon glowed with morning. The mark on her wrist faded slowly, the final trace of the bond dissolving into starlight. She whispered one last time, "Good night, my Alpha." Then she turned away from the edge and walked down the path toward the valley, toward life, toward rebuilding, toward peace. Behind her, the first rays of sunlight caught the sea, scattering gold across the waves. The moon slipped away into daylight, its silver face hidden, but not forgotten. And somewhere, far beyond the veil of mortal sight, Kyle watched her with quiet pride as the new world he died to protect finally breathed again.
Thank you for staying till the end. Please do well to like and subscribe to the channel, and also don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comment. It means a lot to me.